Welcome to another State of Survival video. Today we're going to be talking about troop types. There are three different main troop types in this game. There are infantry, riders, and we have hunters. Currently I have 739 maulers being created in the barracks. You can see their training right there. Down below we have 739 demon raiders, and we have 739 night stalkers as well. So the three different types of buildings are the barracks, the garage, and we also have a ranged building. That's where we house all the troop types. So for the barracks, what we have are shields. This is one type. Now all different types here have their own specific skill set. Shields have an increased defense against bows. That's what it says. We have shotguns as well. They're the next type. Shotguns have an increased defense against riders. So the big deal about the shotguns and the shields are it alternates. Shields are tier 1, tier 3, tier 5, tier 7, and tier 9. And the shotguns are all the even tiers. Now you notice they have different stats as well. Now every single time that we go up a tier, the stats are going to increase. You see the health is different here when it comes to the shotguns. Now tier 8 are shotguns and tier 10 are shotguns. Same thing is true for your riders in your garage. They have two different types. Right here we have demon raiders, and the demon raiders in the details are going to be ATVs. Now ATVs cause increased damage against infantry. So the same thing as the bows are going to be in the next set. Right now we have the bikers. Bikers cause increased damage against hunters. They can sometimes bypass infantry to cause damage against hunters directly. Now you see the stats go up by 1 every single time. So when we drop down, they also go down by 1 each time. So we go from riders to ATVs to riders. Here we have the bows, and it's separate, it's different. It goes here, tier 9 is bows, and tier 8 is bows as well. So we get a direct upgrade this time. Bows cause increased damage against infantry. Now here we have the sniper set. Snipers cause increased damage against riders. They can sometimes bypass infantry to cause damage against riders directly. Having a better understanding of the game is key to being successful at it. So once we read the descriptions, we understand a couple things, but it's not the end-all be-all. We still got to go look at the battle reports to see how the game mechanics and the underlying stats work as the battles progress and see how everything's progressing there. And once we look at that, we start to see some patterns. They start to emerge. I want you to focus on the infantry here and how the odd number T5s and T7s and T9s take the majority of the damage and death when it comes to the battles. As you already saw, there's 1,700 of them right there for the T9s. As you already saw, my T8s didn't take any damage or death at all, period. And you'll notice it's true as well for the other team. The even number ones take far less damage, far less death. We got 1,500, 1,600 there. We have 5,000 versus the T7s here. That's a dramatic difference. And you notice it's across the board all the way down. It works the same way for the ranged and the hunters. So the Banshees right there, we got 1,300. We have 5,400 for the Raiders, 2,500 Hawks, 3,600 Sharpshooters. So the Marksmen, same thing, 37, 253. It's just all the way across the board. So the odd number tier troops just happen to take much more damage and sustain much more injury and death than anybody else in the game. And I happen to think it's a problem with the game mechanics. Maybe that'll get fixed at a later date. Maybe it won't. I'm not sure exactly. But for now, the way it works is those T5s, those T7s, those T9s, those odd number infantry, and the riders and the hunters as well, they die in droves. They die fast. They die way more than the rest of them. And the infantry always die first, so they're the priority. Now, what I end up doing is I end up hiding them in my bunker when I go to war. So you see me sending an attack, those guys are usually not in it. And that's just to preserve the troop loss because you don't want to lose a ton of troops. 739 troops take over 13 hours to create. You know, the less of those guys you can lose at a time, the better. Like I was saying before, the best way to probably preserve the troop loss is to go hide those guys in the bunker. I called it the bunker earlier, but really what it's called is the blast shelter. And we're going to go examine that right now and see how it works. So in the blast shelter, you can stick any amount of troops or any troop types you want into the blast shelter up to a maximum amount. Doesn't matter if it's a low-level troop, a high-level troop. It does have a cap, and the cap is based off of your level for the blast shelter. And the higher the level, the more people you can stick into it. Starting at 15 minutes minimum to 8 hours max. So it does have some flexibility. You also are able to recall your troops whenever you feel like it, so they're not just stuck in there forever. The recall does have a cooldown period on it, though. You can't just keep sticking troops back in and recall them and back in and recall and back in and recall. So it does have a little bit of a cooldown. I think each time you use it, maybe it's a little bit longer. Once you stick your troops into the blast shelter, you won't be able to use them anymore in any kind of infected missions in the wild for PvE or for PvP city battles. So keep that in mind. And that's also a good trick to use just in case you don't want to accidentally stick them in like a rally. You could just hide them in the blast shelter and not have to worry about it. The last thing I wanted to touch on was upgrading your troops, because I feel like it's a very important part of the whole process. What you don't want to do is lose troops as you're playing the game. And using low-level troops guarantees those guys are going to die. So it's what you don't want to do ever. It's what you want to avoid. And we're going to go over like that whole process right now and check it out. Alright, so currently I'm on T6. We got Survivalist right here. We're inside the barracks. This is the infantry. And what would you think would be the first thing to upgrade? You think it would be the slashers here? That would be the first thing we'd upgrade? It would not be the best choice in my opinion, since they're so strong. The one to do would be the grunts, the lowest level ones. You would want to focus on the lowest level troop type every single time, because they're going to be the ones that die the easiest, die first, and you'd want to stick into the blast shelter the most. So you want to keep those T5s, even though T5s are trash, because T1s are even more trash, you know what I'm saying? So you're going to want to make sure you upgrade those T1s as soon as possible to those T6s. Not the T3s or T4s or T2s, but the T1s. And go systematically from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, all the way up until you got them all at max level. Last thing I wanted to touch on was mixing and matching your troop types. As you send formations out in rallies, you can mix them up a little bit because the tier 7s and tier 8s do different things. So you have the infantry, for example. I said do not use the tier 7s, the tier 9s, the tier 5s. I stick by that. I stand by that to the end, because the mechanics is just, they say that it's bad news. They're going to die, and the benefits not going to outweigh the negatives. But currently speaking, you do have the bows and the ATVs, which damage infantry more, and those are tier 9, for example. I would suggest using those if you really wanted to damage the infantry more. But when it comes to the infantry types, I would not suggest using the tier 7s, tier 9s, tier 5s and stuff. I would just avoid using them and wait till you can upgrade them. Unless you're using them for something that has points, like Alliance Showdown, where it makes more sense to send the highest tier troops for the points, then it makes sense. But other than that, I usually use the blast shelter. So take that with a grain of salt. Try it out for yourself. See the different rally details and see how the different troop types go and who dies where and what, because it does have a pattern to it. Once you start looking, you will notice it. So thank you for listening to the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned something. If you guys did, please like, comment, or subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy.